welcome to Christy's Stampin' Spot. Hope you guys are having a great day. So today I'm going to give you guys a quick introduction into the inks that Stampin' Up! Has to offer. So let's get started. So if you have your new 2020-2021 annual catalog, turn to page 142. And here you're going to see our color collections. So we have four main color families: the brights, neutrals, regals, subtles, and then we have our basics and our in colors. So our in colors are actually our on trend colors, and they are only around for 2 years. So our brand new ones that just started in 2020 will go through 2022, but our ones that were introduced in 2019 will retire in 2021. So this is their last catalog. But I love our on trend in colors because it helps us fill out our color palette, keep us nice and current. So if you go up here to the top, these are we'll start with the brights up here on the top and Poppy Parade. So one of the things I love about Stampin' Up! Colors is that they're all, it's the same color throughout. So if you buy the cardstock or the Stampin' Blends or markers, once you buy Poppy Parade, it's all Poppy Parade. So it's so fabulous. I just love that all of it's matchy-matchy. So these dots up here are a good representation of what our colors actually look like. So I know it shows a gradient here, but that is just so that it's easier for you to follow across the different sections. So we have cardstock, and this is our 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and you can get a full pack of just the Poppy Parade. But if you want to get all of the brights, if you go over to page 144, you can see that we actually sell assortment packs of our cardstock. So our 8.5 by 11 and our 12 by 12, you can get actual assortment packs in all of our color all four of our color families, as well as the in colors. We also have designer series paper, or DSP, in all of our color families, as well as in the in colors. And if you see right here, if you don't have any of our stamp pads and you want to buy them as a bundle, and anytime you see this little 10%, that means that we offer a discounted price, and you save 10% when you buy all of the things in a bundle. So if you buy all the softs, all the subtles, stamp pads, you can save 10% on what you would have to pay if you bought them all individually. And you can get the stamp pads in the color families, the brights, neutrals, regals, and subtles, as well as in our in colors. We also offer our Stampin' Up! Ink refills in bundles as well. So you can actually get all four of our color family ink refills in a bundle and to save the 10%. Our in colors are actually sold separately. Now, you can also get all of our colors sold separately. So we sell our refills separately as well as in the bundle. We also have Stampin' Write markers. Now, Stampin' Write markers are sold in our color families, as well as our in colors. They're not sold individual, but our Stampin' Write markers are our water-based marker that matches our stamp pad, so it has the same ink. And that means, so on one side you have the pen side where you can actually write on your projects or in your cards with the coordinating color, or on the other side you have the brush end and the brush tip. You can actually color onto your stamps to stamp your image. So you can use your markers to actually stamp images if you want to do different colors on the same stamp. This is awesome. The trick with using your marker is after you have marked up your stamp and you're almost ready to stamp your image, huff on it. The moisture in your breath will reactivate the ink to make sure you can get a great image. And you can get these, all of them in the color families or in colors right here. Now, if you don't have any of the markers and you want to get them all four of our color families together, you can get the Many Marvelous Markers pack that has all four in them, all four of color families. So we go back to page 142, and we continue down. I want to introduce you to our main classic Stampin' Pad. So this is the Poppy Parade Stampin' Pad. Our ink it's a water-based ink, so it's fabulous for using on both our red rubber stamps or our photopolymer. And then our case, it opens like a compact, so it has this little groove right here. You just lift up, fold over, and then it just slides. And you can hear it click, and that gives it a nice platform, so you have a nice even platform to ink your stamps for your image. Also, our ink pads are foam, and that means that when you're stamping, make sure you don't smush or press too hard with your stamps onto the foam, because there is some give and you don't want to get that much ink all over. If you push too hard, you'll get ink all over your stamp and your fingers, and then it'll transfer to your projects, or you could get halos, and we don't want that. So you just lightly kiss your stamps when you're inking them up. And then one of the fabulous things about the design of our ink pads is that it stores our ink pad, the foam ink pad is upside down. That way, when you open it, your ink is all right here on the edge of the top, which is pretty awesome. You can also see right here, I have a well, and I did that on purpose, that well of ink. So what you do is, you've got your ink pad closed, you lightly squish on your ink pad, and when you open it up, you have that little ink well. And what that's good for is you can use then, you can also put you can use refill and put a little bit of refill in there as well, but you can use that as an inkwell for your water painters or your blender pen, and use it to actually pick up our classic ink to color your stamped images, which is pretty awesome. When you first get your ink pad, make sure you notice that there's actually stickers on the back. So it comes in like 4 different languages. I pulled the English off and put it right here. We also have one that has, that's just the color. And I've actually put that in right here. So that way when your ink pad is open, you will know what color it is, which is pretty awesome. So this is our water soluble, so that they clean off your stamps very easily with our chamois or our Stampin' Scrub. It's very fabulous. So I've already told you about your ink refills. You can actually get them individually right here, or as an assortment pack for your our main 4 collections. And then next is our Stampin' Blends. So I love our Stampin' Blends. So Stampin' Blends are our alcohol markers. They come in a 2-pack, a light and a dark. And what's fabulous about the Stampin' Blends is that they actually color so awesome, but it's wet. The rule with Stampin' Blends is more wet is best. So make sure that when you're using them, whether it's light to dark or dark to light, that you lay down a lot of color, because they blend best when they're wet. So if you're doing a larger section, you want to start off little and then blend out, because if it dries, it doesn't blend as much. So the more you put on, the better, which also means that it will bleed through. So make sure that when you're coloring with the blends, that you use either a piece of our grid paper or a scrap paper, because it will bleed through your project and you want to protect your work surface. But they're awesome. And one of my favorite parts of having the alcohol markers is that you can color your embellishments. So your ribbons or your pearls or your rhinestones, you can color them with the Stampin' Blends and to match your project. So I love it when it's matchy-matchy. But to keep in mind though, they are alcohol markers. So unlike our classic Stampin' Write markers that have the same ink as our ink pad, the Stampin' Write you can actually use on your stamps to stamp with. The blends you can't. They're alcohol. If you color onto your stamps, you'll just color your stamps. These are just for coloring. The ink does not transfer. So just keep that in mind. But these are so awesome, and you will find them. We don't have them in every color, but almost every color, and you can find them right there. So if you turn it over to the 143, you can see in our basics, we also have the blends in the black. And then we have 2 skin tones, the bronze and the ivory, as well as this color lifter. So what's a color lifter? So the color lifter is actually like our eraser. So you would use this with your blends if you had you wanted to lighten up a certain area once you're coloring it, that'll help. Or if you go outside the lines and you want to erase it. So if you use like the Puppy Parade is quite bright, and sometimes depending on, you might have to use the color lifter once or twice. And and you need to let it dry between each time to get it all up. So sometimes you might have to do it a couple times, but it does work. So that's our color lifter. You can get that there. And then the basics is actually where you also find your basic black cardstock as well as your very vanilla and your Whisper White. So let's look at some of our other inks. So if you turn to page 146, you can see these two pages have our other inks on it. So the first up is our Versamark. So your Versamark is actually your watercolor, is our watermark ink. So it's a clear, it's a little bit more gooey than a regular, and that makes it so much, it makes it so easy for embossing. So we use this for heat embossing because it will attach, our embossing powder attaches so easy to our Versamark, but it's also a tone on tone. So if you were going to stamp Poppy Parade on Poppy Parade cardstock, that would be tone on tone. So, so our Versamark is our tone on tone watermark ink pad that also we use for stamp heat embossing, which is pretty awesome. The next are our two blacks. We have a StazOn and a Memento. They're pictured here, but you can find their information on the other side on page 147. So the first up is our StazOn. So we actually have two colors of the StazOn, jet black and saddle brown. And these are our pigment black ink. And if you open it up, you can see it has this little case, this little plastic tray cover. You need to make sure not to throw this away. You need to put this back on after you're done stamping. Like I said, this is a pigment ink, so it's perfect for watercoloring or on our watercolor paper, or if you are going to stamp on any kind of hard slick surface like our window sheets or cellophane bags. So if you're making goodie bags with on those little plastic bags, StazOn is the best. But what makes StazOn, besides making sure you put back this little plastic cover, is how you clean your stamps after you use it. So on page 163, you can see that's where we have our cleaners. And you can find the StazOn cleaner right here. And so the StazOn cleaner is a bottle, and it has like this little spongy top. And so when I'm done using my StazOn, I will stamp off as much as I can onto a piece of scratch paper. And then I will use the bottle of the StazOn cleaner directly onto the stamp with a little sponge. And I clean it off. And then after I've got my ink off, I will dab it off on a piece of paper towel. And then after I've got all the ink off, I'll either rinse it off under the sink, under the water, or I can use my chamois or my Stampin' Scrub. But what's important is when you use it with your photopolymer. So that's with your red rubber, you can just pounce it off on a paper towel and then use your chamois or your Stampin' Scrub. With the photopolymer, which is our see-through stamps, you need to make sure that you rinse it off under the water with a little bit of Dawn soap, because the photopolymer is very sensitive to this cleaner. So if you don't clean it off, it can deteriorate your stamps. Like sunlight, you can't store your photopolymer in direct sunlight. You also need to make sure when you use your StazOn cleaner that you actually clean it off really good off of your stamps, because the cleaner will hurt your stamps. So you don't want that to happen. So make sure you can still use your StazOn with your photopolymer. Just make sure that you clean it and then clean off the cleaner. So that way you can keep your stamps being awesome for longer. And that, so like I said, pigment ink, awesome for watercoloring and for cellophane bags, any kind of hard plastic surface. The next black is our Memento. I love the black Memento ink. So we have the Tuxedo Black Memento. Love it. You can also get the refills for all of these in our catalog next to where the pad is. This is the Memento is a water-based paint ink, so it's very similar to our regular classic ink pads, and I actually love it because it's fabulous with the blends. So when you're using your Stampin' Blends, the Memento ink is the best. Don't use your StazOn with the blends, because something about the alcohol markers and the pigment ink, they will run, so don't use those two. That's awesome. But with the blends, the Memento is awesome. So definitely the awesome. And the Memento ink is very similar to, like I said, like our regular classic ink. You can just clean it regularly with your chamois or your Stampin' Scrub, and it keeps you don't see that it stains your stamps hardly at all. So it's fabulous. I love, 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 love this black magenta ink. It's one of the things that I would suggest getting for your collection if you haven't gotten it yet. We have one more pigment ink, and that is our Whisper White craft ink. So it is a pigment ink, and it also stays wet much longer than our regular Memento or our classic pad, so it will smear. So make sure when you're using it that you set it aside or use our heat tool to completely dry your ink before you're playing with it, because you don't want to smudge it on your project. It does come in the same case as our classic pads, but when you get it, it's actually uninked. So when it comes, after you order, it comes, it's uninked. It comes with a refill and of the Whisper White, and you just add it like dots onto your pad, and then you can use your bone folder or the back of a spoon to make sure you evenly get it across your pad. But like our other classic pads, they are stored upside down so that all the ink is right here, which is pretty awesome. So just remember that it does take longer to dry. So it's fabulous for stamping on our black cardstock or our darker cardstocks, but it does take longer to dry, so you don't want to smudge those projects. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're using your Whisper White craft ink. The next up is your Stampin' Spots. So the spots are, if you're familiar or get our Paper Pumpkin, which is our monthly subscriber paper crafting kit. These come with that. They're fabulous. You can get an assortment pack in the catalog, or you can get uninked ones that you can refill. So these are just the same kind of ink that's in our bigger pads, except they're smaller. They are a little different in that it is not foam. It is kind of like a fabric, but it takes the exact same ink refill as our classic pads, so you can refill them, or when you buy the uninked ones, you can add and make your own, which is pretty awesome. The Stampin' Spots are fabulous for travel, or for stamping with smaller stamps, or even using your Stamparatus. So these are pretty awesome, and you can get those on page 147. Okay, so so page 146 and 147 is where you're going to find our Versamark, our StazOn, our Memento, our Whisper White craft ink, as well as our ink spots. And then don't forget, on page 163 is where you can get our cleaners. You need the StazOn cleaner when you're using the StazOn, both the black or the saddle brown. And then our chamois. So to clean the ink off your stamps and changing ink during your project, I would suggest getting the chamois or our Stampin' Scrub, and they're on page 163. So I actually use my chamois. You can tell it's very well loved. It comes, when you first get it, it's this lovely light purple lilac color. I've actually cut mine in half, which is pretty fabulous. And it's, as you can see, it's very flexible when it's nice and wet and damp. But it's not, there's no water coming out, but you don't need any cleaner. It's just water. So even though it looks like it's dirty, because it does stain, the staining won't come out, but it doesn't come off on your hands or on your stamps. It's a fabulous to clean your stamps off from, and because it's not drippy wet, you can go straight from stamping in one color to cleaning your stamp, and then re-inking in a different color to stamp for your project. So I love the chamois. It's fabulous, especially if you're traveling or if you have a smaller space. It's awesome to have on your desk. Our other cleaner is our Stampin' Scrub, which is awesome, and it has a wet and dry side. Right, the wet side has it has little raindrops, and then a little sun for the dry side. And you use it with your Stampin' Mist. So you can see that you can get the Stampin' Mist here. And our Stampin' Mist is not just our cleaner. So you would spray it on one side. You'd clean your red rubber or your Foley Polymer on the side, and then you can dry it on the side so you're ready for your next color or for your next project, or to put them away. But it also is a conditioner. So when you use it, it actually helps condition your stamps so that they will stay nicer longer. I have stamps that I've had for 20 years, and they're as awesome as the day that I bought them. And especially if you use a lot of baby wipes or anything with alcohol to clean your stamps, they can dry out the red rubber and crack it. So the conditioner that you with the Stampin' Mist Cleaner really helps keep those stamps awesome. And you want to keeping them stamping as good as the day you get them, which is pretty awesome. So you can find our cleaners and our chamois and our scrub on page 163, as well as that's where you can find our grid paper and our clear acrylic blocks. So if I go back to page 142, you can see that you can find all of our colors. These little color, I mentioned that these little color spots are the true color of our inks, and you will also see these little spots throughout our catalog, so that you can know what colors coordinate with the DSP, the designer series paper, or so if you see like here on this page, you can see how we have the colors right here. That shows you that those are the colors that coordinate with that DSP, and that way when you go and find them in the back on page 42, you will know what colors to purchase to get the most out of your DSP and with your suite. So I hope you guys enjoyed this quick little overview of our stamps. Just make sure when you get your new classic pads, you realize they open like a compact, and they're water soluble. I love, love, love. Our inks are so fabulous, and I love that everything matches. So I hope you enjoyed this quick little overview of all the fabulousness that is our inks that Stampin' Up! Offers. And I hope you can purchase with confidence and get stamping. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and happy crafting. Bye.